It was late spring, and the forest was alive with the hum of new life. I was out on my usual patrol, boots crunching through the underbrush, the air thick with the scent of pine and damp earth. My name's Jason, and I've been a ranger here for years, walking these trails alone since Sarah passed. That morning, something stopped me dead in my tracks, a faint, desperate squeak, barely louder than the rustle of leaves. My heart kicked hard in my chest. I froze, scanning the trees, half expecting a bird or squirrel. But it came again, weaker, from the base of an old oak. I pushed through the ferns, my breath catching as I spotted it. A tiny lynx cub, no bigger than my hand, curled up in a pile of leaves. Its fur was matted, its eyes barely open, and it was shivering like it had been out here too long. No sign of its mother. No tracks, no scent, nothing. Just this fragile thing, alone in a world that didn't care. My stomach twisted. I'd seen plenty of animals in trouble out here, but this one hit different. Maybe it was the way its little chest heaved, fighting for every breath. I knelt down, my hands hovering over it. What was I supposed to do? Leave it here to die? Take it to the authorities, who'd probably just put it in a cage somewhere. I couldn't walk away. I scooped it up, its body so light it felt like it might break. Its whimpers softened as I tucked it inside my jacket, close to my chest. The warmth of my body seemed calming, but I knew this was just the start. I didn't know the first thing about raising a wild animal. Back at my cabin, I set the cub on a blanket by the fireplace. It looked even smaller in the dim light, like it could slip away any second. I grabbed my phone and called Emma, the local vet, who'd helped me with injured animals before. She picked up on the second ring. Emma, it's Jason. I found a lynx cub in the forest. It's in bad shape. Can you come? Her voice was calm but firm. I'll be there in 20. Don't do anything stupid until I get there. While I waited, I tried to get the cub to drink some water from a dropper, but it barely moved. My mind raced. I'd lost Sarah 2 years ago to cancer, and the helplessness I felt watching her fade came rushing back. I couldn't save her, but maybe I could save this cub. Or maybe I was just fooling myself. The fire crackled, and I stared at the cub's tiny paws, wondering if I was already in over my head. Emma showed up, her vet bag slung over her shoulder. She took one look at the cub and frowned. Jason, this is a wild animal. It's not a pet. You know that, right? I nodded, but my chest tightened. She checked its vitals, her hands gentle but quick. It's dehydrated and probably hasn't eaten in days. Lynx cubs need their mother's milk. This one's maybe a week old. Tops. We can try formula, but it's a long shot. She handed me a bottle and showed me how to feed it, but her eyes said what her words didn't. This cub might not make it. I spent the rest of the day by the fire, coaxing tiny drops of formula into the cub's mouth. It took a few, then stopped, its breathing shallow. Emma's warning echoed in my head. I wasn't ready to lose something else, not after everything. But as night fell, the cub's whimpers grew fainter and panic crept in. I sat there, holding it close, whispering to it like it could understand me. Come on, little one, you've got to fight. I didn't sleep that night, watching its chest rise and fall, each breath weaker than the last. I didn't know if it would see the morning. The sun was barely up, and I was already exhausted, sitting by the fireplace with the lynx cub cradled in a blanket. I hadn't slept, my eyes burning from watching its tiny chest all night, praying each breath wasn't its last. I called it Mia, after my wife Sarah's middle name. It felt right, even if it hurt to say. Mia's whimpers were stronger today, but she was still so weak, her little body trembling every time I tried to feed her. The formula Emma gave me was tricky to get right. Too much, and she'd choke. Too little, and she'd starve. I was terrified I'd mess it up. Emma came by that morning, her vet bag heavier this time. She checked Mia, her face softening as she watched the cub nuzzle my hand. She's fighting, Jason, but she's not out of the woods. You're doing good, but this is a marathon, not a sprint. She showed me how to adjust the formula mix, her hand steady as she guided the dropper to Mia's mouth. I tried to focus, but my mind kept slipping back to Sarah, how I'd sat by her hospital bed, helpless, watching her slip away. I shook it off. Mia wasn't Sarah. I could still save her. By afternoon, Mia started to respond. Her eyes, cloudy before, seemed brighter, and she even swatted at the dropper with a tiny paw. I laughed for the first time in days, feeling a spark of hope. But then I heard a truck pull up outside. It was Tom, my neighbor, a gruff hunter who'd lived on the edge of the forest longer than me. He banged on the door, and I opened it, still holding Mia. His eyes narrowed when he saw her. "Jason, what the hell are you doing with a lynx cub? That thing belongs in the wild, not your living room." I bristled. "It was abandoned, Tom. It'll die out there." He shook his head. "You're not its mother. You're messing with nature. Let it go before you make things worse." His words stung, mostly because part of me wondered if he was right. I'd seen what happened when people meddle with wild animals, cages, broken spirits. But Mia wasn't just an animal to me anymore. She was a fighter, like Sarah had been. I told Tom to mind his own business and shut the door, my hand shaking. I didn't need his judgment. I needed Mia to live. That evening, I took Mia to the vet clinic for a checkup. Emma ran more tests, her brow furrowing as she listened to Mia's breathing. "She's got an infection, Jason, probably from being out in the cold too long. We can treat it, but the meds aren't cheap and there's no guarantee." My stomach dropped. "How much?" I asked, already dreading the answer. She wrote down a number that made my head spin. Hundreds of dollars for a course of antibiotics. I didn't have that kind of money lying around, not after Sarah's medical bills had drained me. Emma saw my face and put a hand on my shoulder. "I'll cover what I can, but you need to decide if you're all in. This cub's life is on you now." Back home, I sat with Mia, her tiny body curled against my chest. I thought about Sarah, how she'd always believed in doing the right thing, no matter how hard. I couldn't let Mia down, but the weight of it all, Tom's words, the money, the fear of failing her, pressed down on me. That night, Mia's breathing turned ragged, and she stopped taking the formula. Panic clawed at me. I called Emma, my voice breaking. "She's getting worse." "What do I do?" Her answer was calm but urgent. "Get her here now. We'll start the meds tonight." I grabbed my keys, Mia wrapped in a blanket, and ran out the door, not knowing if I'd make it in time. I woke up to Mia's soft mewling, a sound that felt like a small victory after last night's scare. Her breathing was steadier, thanks to the antibiotics Emma started at the vet clinic. I'd spent everything I had on those meds, scraping together what little savings remained after Sarah's bills. Holding Mia now, her tiny body warmer, and her eyes a bit brighter, I felt like we'd turned a corner. She even tried to stand, wobbling on her paws before flopping back onto the blanket. I smiled, whispering, "You're tougher than you look, kid." But the moment didn't last. A knock at the door jolted me. It was a guy from the county wildlife office, clipboard in hand, his face all business. "Mr. Carter, we got a report you're keeping a lynx cub. That's illegal without a permit. You need to hand it over to the rehabilitation center by tomorrow." My jaw tightened. "Who reported me?" I asked, already suspecting Tom. He didn't answer, just handed me a notice and left. I looked at Mia, her head tilted as if she knew something was wrong. I wasn't giving her up, not after everything. I drove to the wildlife rehab center an hour away, Mia tucked in a pet carrier beside me. The place was a low brick building surrounded by chain link fences, more like a prison than a sanctuary. Linda, the center's manager, met me at the entrance. She was kind but direct, her eyes scanning me as I explained how I'd found her. "Jason," she said, leaning against a desk cluttered with papers, "lynx cubs don't do well in captivity. They need space, wild instincts. Even if we take her, she might not make it." Her words hit hard. I thought about Mia's shaky steps this morning, how she'd nuzzle my hand. Could I really let her go to a place like this? On the drive back, my mind was a mess. Linda's warning clashed with the wildlife officer's orders, and I didn't know what was right anymore. All I knew was Mia was alive because I'd fought for her. Back home, I let her out of the carrier, and she stumbled toward me, curling up against my leg. I sat there, stroking her fur, trying to push away the thought of losing her. That's when I noticed something outside, a fresh set of tracks in the mud near the porch. Too big for a fox, too deliberate for a dog. Wolf tracks. My heart sank. The forest wasn't safe, not with wolves prowling closer than usual this spring. I called Emma, my voice tight. There's wolf tracks near the house. What do I do with Mia? She was quiet for a moment, then said, keep her inside for now. Wolves are bold this time of year, especially with cubs around. If you let her go, she's prey. Her words felt like a punch. I'd saved Mia from starving, from infection, but now the forest itself was turning against us. I spent the afternoon reinforcing the cabin's windows and doors, my hands shaking as I hammered nails. Every creak outside made me jump, imagining yellow eyes watching from the trees. That night, I couldn't sleep. Mia was curled up by the fire, her breathing steady, but I kept thinking about those tracks. I stepped outside with a flashlight, the beam cutting through the dark. The air was heavy, the forest too quiet. Then I saw them. Fresh wolf tracks, circling closer to the cabin than before. My blood ran cold. I gripped the flashlight tighter, scanning the trees, knowing Mia and I were running out of time. Mia was stronger now, her fur fluffier, her eyes sharp and curious. She'd started batting at my fingers, pouncing on a stray sock like it was prey. Watching her play in the morning light filtering through my cabin's windows, I felt a warmth I hadn't known since Sarah. But that warmth came with a gnawing ache. Every time Mia scratched at the door or stared out at the forest, I saw something new in her, a restlessness, a pull toward the wild I couldn't ignore. Was I keeping her safe or trapping her? Emma stopped by that afternoon, her vet bag lighter, now that Mia was on the mend. She sat on the couch, watching Mia wrestle with a ball of yarn. She's growing fast. Jason, you've done wonders, but she's a lynx, not a house cat. Have you thought about what's next? Her words hit like a stone in my gut. I'd been dodging that question, pretending Mia could stay forever. I mumbled something about keeping her safe from the wolves, but Emma's eyes softened. Keeping her safe might mean letting her go. You can't replace Sarah with her, you know. I looked away, my throat tight. She wasn't wrong, but hearing it hurt. Later that day, I took Mia outside for the first time since I'd found her. I stayed close, my eyes scanning for wolf tracks. She sniffed the air, her ears twitching at every rustle in the bushes. For a moment, she looked alive in a way she never did inside, her paws digging into the earth like she belonged there. But then I remembered the tracks circling my cabin, the yellow eyes I imagined in the dark. I scooped her up and brought her back inside, my heart racing. The forest wasn't safe, but was my home any better? Tom showed up unannounced, leaning against his truck with a rifle slung over his shoulder. I saw you out there with that cub, he said, his voice gruff. You're doing her no favors, Jason. I knew a guy who raised a bear cub once. Thought he was saving it, but it grew up confused, couldn't hunt, couldn't live wild. Died in a cage. You want that for her? I clenched my fists, hating how his words echoed Emma's. She's not a bear, Tom. She's got a chance. He shook his head. Nature don't care about your feelings. Let her go before you break her. He drove off, leaving me standing in the dirt, doubts clawing at me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Mia curled up by the fire, but I kept seeing Sarah's face, her smile fading in that hospital bed. I'd failed her. Couldn't save her no matter how hard I tried. Was I failing Mia too, keeping her here because I was too scared to be alone again? The thought tore at me. I looked at Mia, her tiny chest rising and falling, and made a decision. I'd take her to the forest tomorrow, teach her what I could, then let her go. She deserved a chance to be wild, even if it broke my heart. But as I lay there, planning our last day together, a howl cut through the night, closer than ever. My blood ran cold. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside, the beam shaking in my hand. The wolves were out there, hungry and bold, and I just decided to set Mia free into their world. The morning sun filtered through the pines, casting long shadows across the forest floor. I'd made up my mind. Mia had to go back to the wild. Keeping her in my cabin, safe but caged, wasn't fair. She was a lynx, born for the trees and the hunt, not for my fireplace. But letting her go felt like tearing out a piece of my heart. I spent the day preparing, my hands trembling as I packed a small bag with bits of raw meat from the butcher. Today, I'd teach her what I could, give her a fighting chance before saying goodbye. I carried me outside, her eyes wide as she sniffed the air. She was stronger now, her legs steadier, her claws sharp enough to scratch my arm when she got excited. I set her down in a clearing, far from the wolf tracks I'd seen last night. Kneeling beside her, I dangled a piece of meat, letting her pounce and wrestle it from my hand. "Come on, Mia, you've got this," I said, my voice catching. She growled softly, tearing at the meat, and for a moment, I saw the wild in her, fierce and alive. But every rustle in the bushes made me flinch, the howl from last night still echoing in my head. Emma came by to check on us, her truck rattling up the dirt road. She watched Mia play, a sad smile on her face. "You're doing the right thing, Jason. She's ready, or as ready as she'll ever be." I nodded, but my chest ached. "What if she doesn't make it?" I asked, barely above a whisper. Emma put a hand on my shoulder. "You've given her a shot. That's more than she had when you found her." Her words helped, but they didn't erase the fear. I was letting go of the one thing that had kept me going since Sarah. Before I could take Mia to the forest, I called Linda at the rehab center, hoping for reassurance. Her voice was gentle but blunt. "Lynx cubs rarely survive without their mothers, Jason. Even with your help, the odds are against her. Wolves, hunger, disease, she's facing all of it." I hung up, my stomach in knots. Linda's warning clashed with Emma's encouragement, leaving me torn. But I looked at Mia, her ears twitching as she stared at the trees, and I knew I couldn't keep her locked away. That evening, I took her deep into the forest, to a spot thick with underbrush where she could hide. The air was cool, the sky turning gold as the sun dipped low. I set her down, my hand shaking. "Go on, Mia. This is your home." She hesitated, looking back at me, her eyes catching the last light. Then she bounded forward, disappearing into the shadows. I stood there, frozen, waiting for her to come back. She didn't. The forest swallowed her, and I was alone again, the ache in my chest heavier than ever. A month later, I was back on my patrol, the forest now alive with summer's hum. I hadn't seen Mia since that night, and the not knowing ate at me. Had she survived? Was she out there, hunting, free? Or had the wolves found her? Then, near the old oak where I first found her, I saw tracks, small, fresh, with the telltale claw marks of a lynx. My heart leapt. Was it Mia? I followed them until they faded into the brush. No answers, just a flicker of hope. I smiled, whispering her name into the trees, trusting she was out there, somewhere wild and alive.